I love that music. Ah, that music is so much fun. It kind of like takes me back to my high school days and dancing around and doing all of that. Hi, Bill. How are you?
Hey, Walter. Good. How are you?
I am outstanding. Thank you so much for joining us. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Travel Talk Live. It's Thursday night. If you're new to the channel, I am Walter, your independent travel advisor with Where's Walter Travel, and I am excited to introduce you guys to Bill Coyle from KHM Travel. Oh, thank you so much, Bill. This is going to be so much fun.
I'm excited for this. I know that we started talking about it a few days ago, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is a great opportunity to talk travel, something I love and passionate about. And then I got to see all your videos, and I get all jazzed up when I see those things. Really cool.
Hey, and we've got Eddie, Nurse Tara, Rick, Steven, Aaron, Becky. Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for joining in. If you're new to the channel tonight, we're going to be talking. So Bill is a long-time travel advisor. Y'all know I've been with this. We just celebrated 1 year. 1 year, a couple days ago. Bill, you've been doing this a little bit longer than that, right?
Just a little longer. And congratulations on your 1 year, because you're killing it. You know, I wish that I was that successful after 1 year. I'm about 34, 35 years into this, and I'm gonna be Walter one day, but I'm working on it. But I enjoy watching you grow.
And trust me, I know how insanely blessed we are with the social media audience and everything. Y'all have been just amazing. We do our best. You know, one thing I've learned, Bill, is we're not perfect. We can't be perfect, but we do our absolute best for our clients every day. Yes. And they seem to appreciate that. And that's about all you can do, right?
Yes, I think you're doing everything you can to get them excited, prepare them, and then if something goes wrong, you've got to be the one there to help them get through it.
We try. Sherry, Becky, how are you? Thanks for joining in. Yeah, I got a fun story about a cruise being canceled, but we'll talk about that one later.
All right.
Joe, good evening. Hello, everybody. So just to set everybody up tonight, we're going to be talking, Bill has a long history in travel. We're going to be talking about the evolution of travel, some tips, things like that. But if you might have any interest in becoming a travel advisor, maybe doing what I'm doing what Bill has been doing for a long time, Bill in his role of VP of Agent Engagement at KHM Travel, we're going to kind of give you some high-level overview information if you might be interested in pursuing that as well. So it's going to be a fun conversation tonight. This is going to be awesome. Bill, why don't you just start out and tell everybody, who you are, maybe some of your history and some of your background.
Thanks, Walter. In 1986, back in the day, my mom and dad started our travel agency in a little town called Parma, Ohio. It was really, really cool. We had a big family. We had been in a family business of printing, so they started a travel agency. And most of us work in the agency. I certainly did. I was delivering tickets back in the day because that's what we did, as you remember, airline tickets. And then by 1996, my parents were getting a little bit older and thought it's best for someone to take over this business. So my sister and I took over the agency. And then it just became like, oh my gosh, you get some younger people in, what's going to happen in this industry? We were fortunate that we had that 10 years of learning under our parents, right? And we had this family business going, so we learned and learned and learned. And then we were able to migrate the business over to a leisure business. And by 2003, after the 2001 disaster, by 2003, we finally converted our agency to a leisure business, right? So that's what you're doing now. You're putting people on cruises and you're sending them to all-inclusive resorts and all over the world. That's what we started to do. So that was really a great thing.
Nice.
We continued on. We opened up a few other locations. We learned as much as we can as we grew. And, there was hiccups along the way. You look at what happened in 2008 with the downturn, 2009 with H1N1. There's been quite a few things. And then, we started to hit that sweet spot, 2011, 2012. Nice. In 2015, this man came to me. He happened to own the business down the street from us. And he says, come work for us. And I thought, oh my gosh, what does this mean, right? I can't give up my travel agency. So I was very, very blessed to migrate my travel agency into KHM and allow that to become our retail portion of it, as we still had our agents, we still had our long-term customers that we had been cultivating. And then I grew into this role that I'm in right now. It's been about 8 years.
Wow. That is 1986 started.
Yeah.
Wow. And didn't they used to actually print the airline tickets on those cards back in the day?
We hand wrote them. We hand wrote, and then we started printing, and we had these ticket printers going all day long. So that was a lot of fun.
Oh my God. I vaguely have recollections of being a kid and my dad taking me to some travel agency and, that noise and they're pulling the tickets and handing it to us and all of that. Wow. That was old school right there, man. That totally was back in the day.
We literally just got rid of our ticket printers probably 5 or 6 years ago.
Oh my goodness! You still had them?
You have to dispose of things properly, and it took us quite a long time to figure out how we can get rid of these things.
Put it in a museum, I guess.
Yeah,
maybe.
Exactly.
I remember my dad. My dad used to tell stories. He worked for IBM way back in the day, and he remembers when he used to walk into a big room and go, "There's a computer."
Yes.
And now, everything's on our desk. Wow, that is absolutely incredible. So, one of the first things, and by the way, hi, Norma. Hi, Jen. Thanks so much, guys, for joining in. And by the way, if anybody has questions at all about travel, if you want some tips, or maybe have questions about becoming a travel advisor, drop them in the chat. We'll do our best to get to them as we go through the evening tonight. So let's start off with travel. Obviously, you have a long history in travel. And why don't we talk about, maybe a little bit of the evolution of travel since you have been involved in the industry. In some ways, things are a lot easier. Some ways, things are a little harder.
Absolutely. I agree with you. We think about the days where agencies, and there's many agencies in the country who are still doing tickets air only. We need them for corporate business, right? For individuals traveling, incentive travel. But we grew into the leisure market and that became packaging travel, right? So once we started to see packaging travel, air, transfers, resort or cruise, all of that was packaged. And that's where we started to resell those items, right? Mm-hmm. Now I think about the evolution of the travel agent and how we were basically centered in our community. We didn't have a big outside reach, right? It was just those people in the community, the local churches, the Chamber of Commerce's, just local neighbors who would walk into an agency, compared to what I call now as the new modern travel agent, where they're basically home-based, right? The way that you are, you're home-based and you're working from your computer all day long, and you don't just have the ability to have people walk into your business because you have a home. So that's a big difference in how things are looked at now. It doesn't mean that there aren't great brick and mortar and retail travel agents out there. But if you look at, let's just say 1996, 1998, there were 30,000 brick and mortar agencies in the country, 30,000, right? By 2010, that was down to less than 15,000. And now I would say that that number is even greatly reduced because of what happened in recent years. When you think about that downturn and how the expense became out of control, we see more and more agents going home. Fortunately, we have a good customer base that we're able to take them home and work with us, but that's really where the modern travel agent clicks in now.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, one of the things that we were talking about before the show is how, you know, tech has made some things easier, but, you know, the travel part is exciting. You know, the travel part, you know, once I get on my ship, once I get to my resort, once I get to Disney World, that part is really exciting. But we were talking about how there is some anxiety built up because of the nature of travel today, right?
There's such good information in the pre-travel coming from the local travel agent, right? Or the home-based travel agent, right? We're getting that from you guys, and we're seeing great information come. And then there's the technology portion, the apps, getting instant updates on flights or delays, you know, weather, whatever the case is, right? So we have all this knowledge, but then there's still the arrival at the airport. And we all know, everyone on here, I just want to shout out to Aaron and Becky and Sherry and Joe and say, you've been there, right? You all know what it's like to go in there. Sometimes we have to take off our shoes. We have to take off our belt. That part is just so, it's so annoying. It's just like, oh my gosh. And I'm not saying that it doesn't ultimately turn out good for obvious reasons, but that transition part of arriving at the airport and getting into the gate is that most hectic part, right? And it causes what? Anxiety, right? So we all have anxiety. I still have it today, except as you were talking about with pre-check or, you know, with clear, literally now it takes me 3 minutes to get from check-in, if I'm going to check a bag, if not from the entrance of the airport right to the gate or through security. It's so fast, but there's still an anxiety. What could happen? Did I put water in there? Do I have a liquid in there? What is all that about? So that part becomes that anxiety part. And then we get on board. We're a little anxious as we get on board. And then we get off the plane or out of our vehicle or whatever the case is. And then we're just starting to feel like, okay, that's starting to go away, right? And now all of that part is behind us, because I'll be honest with you, as I'm sitting next to the Eiffel Tower or sailing down the Danube or sitting on the beach, I don't think about that element at the airport that I went through. It goes away from my mind throughout my trip, throughout my experience.
Wow. And he's not just saying that. Like, I've actually seen the pictures of him next to the Eiffel Tower on the Danube. You really are going, he is living our best life right now. If you saw Bill's Facebook feed, he is living our best life. I do love Joe's comment here. You worked for a courier in the 90s, delivered tickets for American Express Travel.
I love it. Oh my God, American Express Travel. They're one of the best. Definitely. I don't know how well they treated you, Joe, but they're a good company. And I love what Jen says. You know, what Jen says is so true, because I'm a Delta fan, and to no reason of anything else, right? I was a big Continental guy because we were Cleveland, Ohio, so we were a big Continental town.
Ooh, Continental, wow. Ooh,
well, yeah. Then they got taken over by United, and I remember how much I loved Northwest because they were right here in Detroit, where I'm from. But that idea of Delta going through Atlanta is easy for me, right? If anything happens, I'm in a safe environment because of weather, right? So I feel comfortable with that. I love that she said that.
Yeah, and Atlanta, I lived in Atlanta for 27 years. So like, I go in that airport and I'm home. I love that airport so much.
I feel so much at home.
Yeah, it's a great airport. And I'll tell you what, she brings up a good thing too. One of the things that we do a lot as travel advisors, and a lot of people, you know, when you look at flights today on Expedia or any of these things, you see that low price and you jump on it.
Yes.
But you may not notice that the connection is only 25 minutes. You got 25 minutes, hopefully, if your plane actually gets there. Then you've got to get off your plane and then go find that gate. And guess what? That gate might be closed by the time you walk there. So that's one of the things that we do as a travel agent. We make sure there's at least 90 minutes. We try to get 90 minutes, right? For that gap. Try to make it safer for the client.
You hear horror stories. And as experienced travelers, we think, oh, it's not a problem. But we got to think back to an inexperienced traveler, someone who's got anxiety about going through the airport. Do they need to eat? Do they need to go to the bathroom? Do they need to stop? Whatever the case is, we've got to take that into consideration.
Yeah, and then we've got some who have scooters, wheelchairs.
Yes.
They need a little more time to get to where they're going. And some people just, I just want that good deal. And it's like, well, what's your connection between the flight? We actually have a rather humorous story going on right now. My mother-in-law thought she was arriving today at 11:30 in the morning. She's going to be here in about 2 more hours, so landing at 11:30 at night. She just didn't realize. Just one of those things. And I said, you have a travel advisor in the family. We can take care of it. But I mean, that's just a little thing that can always happen. So while we're talking about, airports and security and all of that kind of stuff, do you have maybe up to 5 of your best tips to maybe cut down on that anxiety, maybe get through? You mentioned Clear and/or TSA. I'm assuming that's a tip.
Absolutely. Clear and TSA are vital for most airports, I think, when you're considering that. To be honest with you, now I hardly ever whip out an ID anymore because it's scan the eyes and go. Most of my travel, I know you say I travel a lot, is usually where I can do a carry-on because I pack differently or I pack well. I think about our belts and jewelry and all those other elements that could cause anything to happen while we're going through it or take time to stick back in the bag. Why do we need those things when we're traveling? We really don't. One of my best things that I've done, though, in the past couple of years is all of my toiletries for travel are completely separate than my house toiletries, right? I have 2 sets of everything. And I look at replenishing those things when I know they're getting low for travel, right? The ones at home, I have those in a different shelf. That's all set. Whatever it is, the sizes of those bottles or whatever they are is totally different than what I grab in my bag. I literally keep them in my Ziploc bag, throw them into my carry-on and take them. And then it just becomes second nature that I'm never worried about what's in that bag when I'm traveling. Laptops. Oh my gosh, laptops are such a headache. When we have to take those laptops out, do we need our laptop for every single trip? Can we consider a smaller tablet? Because we've got these big laptops, they have to come out. That causes anxiety. Sometimes we leave it there. Sunglasses, earrings, all of those things that we don't think about. That we've got to have a place for them before we get to the airport. We got to think, where am I going to put my phone? Where am I going to put my cash? Where my credit card's going to go? So that I don't have to worry about that when I'm going through security.
And you brought up the great one, the belt. It's like, if you're going to take it off anyway, why don't you have it off before you approach? Have it already in your bag, right? And make sure that your shoes are already, like I'll unlace my shoes a bit, make sure they're nice, and if I got to slip them off. But Clear, if Clear is available at your airport, I can't recommend that enough. I mean, that really is a sweet.
Totally agree. But the big one is a shoehorn. I'm a fanatic to have my shoehorn in my backpack. I've got to have it in case I have to take off my shoes. I need that shoehorn to get the shoes back on quickly and go.
I love that. I will say I do not have a shoehorn, so I might have to get one.
Get the little one. They're at every hotel. Put an extra $1 when you leave and tell them you took the shoehorn.
I love it. And Stephen's saying people do tend to forget about the hidden logistics in travel. And that's one of the things that, I have really honed in on as we do this, because even I really didn't think about it. We live in Florida, right? We can drive to all the cruise ports. So pretty easy. So now we have to put ourselves in our client's shoes saying, okay, they're going to land. They need to get here. They need to get there. Are there connections? We try like heck not to have a 2-flight connection. I mean, those are the worst. If anything, just have a 1-stop. Sure. But yeah, there are a lot of logistics to do there.
Well, and Walter, you and I kind of stayed married to our airlines, depending on where we lived, where we originate from. And in all honesty, sometimes I have to do a double connection when I'm returning from Europe because Delta might not have a partner that does a nonstop. So I won't mind it because I'm so loyal to one airline or another. Right. But I was thinking, I I bought about 10 of these this year. They're the surge protectors that are just attached to the wall, so they don't have a cord. Because as you know, right, cruise lines don't allow us to have the extension cord surge protector, so this one stays attached.
Nice. And the other thing too is get yourself a European adapter, because all the cruise ships have the European plug, so you can just take advantage of that.
Yes, or your hotel in Europe. Absolutely. Good
point. Exactly. I love Becky. I had to laugh, Becky. That's hilarious. I had a coworker who booked her hotel on one Hawaiian island but flew to another, not realizing they were different. What, there's 7 islands or something like that?
Yeah,
main islands?
4 main islands. 7 total. Yeah, it's something else.
I mean, we laugh, but you can see how that can happen, because you just say Hawaii. Well, it's not just Hawaii.
Everyone says Hawaii. I want to go to Hawaii. Which island?
It's the Hawaiian Islands is what it is. It's not just
right.
Hawaii. Thank you for sharing that, Becky. That is absolutely hilarious. Rick, you are so kind. Thank you so much for the kind words. We try. One of the things that we do, and I'm sure you do it as well, is we set up that initial phone call, or I really like to do the video chat now, right? Do the Zoom video chat thing. I love doing that. So that's what I'll do a lot as well. And we get to have these nice conversations, and you become friends with them, right?
The key thing that he's saying is walking through the whole process, right? We've literally got to walk our customers through that process and make sure that everyone feels comfortable with the whole process, what they're going to see, what they might, where they might stop, whatever the case is, whatever that is, we've got to walk them through the whole process.
Exactly. And we try, and Nurse Tara, you have anxiety related to flying, but only if I have to get to a cruise. Got it. Yeah, and you're so afraid of not getting to the ship on time, so you've driven to port so far. And a lot of people, I will say, they're starting to move it back to 2 days now. We always say 1 day in advance. I have one client, I'm going to say this, and I love her. She's an amazing client, but she insists on flying same day from Toronto.
Wow.
Every time. Wow. And I'm sitting there. I've got the flight tracker going, please get there. But yeah, people are starting to back that up to 2 days now, Tara. And what have you been seeing that too, where people are now starting to say, you know what, I'm going to come in 2 days early instead of 1?
Absolutely, we are seeing it. So I have to be honest with you. For years, I was a day of guy, right? I've been on 36 cruises, and I was always a day of guy. I never got burned with it, right? But my company now, now that I work for someone, they say, you've got to be there the day before. So now we got to go in the day before, and it really ultimately is better, and it helps you readjust your luggage and just get ready for that arrival the next day.
Yeah, and there's none of that pressure that, oh my God, it's getting close to 3 o'clock.
Yep.
Guess what? Because they close the ship about an hour before it's supposed to go. And if you're not there, guess what? You're just going to be singing the Love Boat theme as it goes away. See ya.
We are seeing the 2 day early, though, now more than ever.
Yeah. And especially over in Europe, we're starting to tell folks to do that because, at least if you get stuck in that layover, you still got another day to get out there and go. So
exactly.
So. And again, folks, if you're new to the channel, please do subscribe. Where's Walter Travel? We try to bring you interviews every Thursday night. And then on Sunday mornings, we do our 1.5 hour TikTok and YouTube extravaganza answering questions. Bill, we've had up to 6,000 people show up on a Sunday morning.
Oh, my gosh.
It's been crazy.
That's
been absolutely crazy. Yeah, and it's just so fun. It's so fun to have these conversations, and we're so glad that y'all have come along. We just broke 4,000 subscribers this week here on YouTube. So thank you so much for all of that. And before we dive into discussion about travel agencies and things, I'm going to take a little moment here to share with you 3 cruises that we do have going on right now. We have 3 group cruises. Now, Bill, you may not have seen any of our lives yet, but we do have the woman of mystery, who is my wife. She never comes on camera. If you want to meet the woman of mystery, you must come on one of these group cruises because we will be there. So that's the incentive. Forget about any incentive with the cruise. Meeting my wife, the woman of mystery, is the incentive to come on these cruises.
Oh, cool.
So the first one is the brand new Sun Princess. How excited are you about this ship?
It's absolutely spectacular. When I saw the video of this, I was so excited about it. It kind of gives me a renewed feeling for Princess and what they're looking at in the future. So I'm really excited about it.
Yes. And what I didn't realize at first, that sphere in the middle of the ship, there's balconies on the top 2/3 of it. I thought it was like just the atrium, but the atrium's only that little bottom part. And we've got a guest who's booked on it. I think we've got like 16 or 17 cabins on it. We're going to do a cabin crawl on the full sea day, so we can go check it out. So, folks, this thing has like 26, 29 eateries and lounges, more restaurants than any Princess ship ever. The ship could hold somewhere in the neighborhood of 5,500 to 6,000 guests if they wanted it to. She's only going to hold 4,300, so they have much more public space.
Great news.
Right? And then we've got the dome up top where they're going to be doing the Cirque du Soleil kind of shows, plus it's the pool during the day. We've got Spellbound, the Magic Bar. Oh, my God. I am so excited about the Magic Bar. I'm so excited about this bar. And then they've got the Cabana Club now, too. So yeah, this is going to be an amazing ship. So if you guys want to come along, this will be like the 4th or 5th cruise in America for this ship, October 19th. So it's going to be so much fun. We got amazing resident rates. So if you all want to come along on that, and if you have not seen it, we just announced it a couple days ago. We're actually going to do the MSC Seashore in July of 24. And, you know, we did this, and Bill, I'm sure you've seen some of this too. There's a lot of, out on social media, there's a lot of negativity and misunderstanding towards MSC.
Absolutely agree.
And what is MSC? And we decided, because we live only an hour from Port Canaveral, we're like, we're going to get on the seaside. We need to go see this for ourselves because it can't be that bad. And sure enough, it wasn't. It was a lovely time.
Are gorgeous ships. I just, I think that we have to understand them working from a European country, a European element into the USA, right, market. And what is that like to adapt to us? But my God, the ships are gorgeous. There's so much change, and I think that there's very little risk, in all honesty. And that's why I think it's so worth it for people to get onto these ships and take a look at them. You know, we think about loyalty. They're matching loyalty programs with other companies, right? So it's not a big risk to get on board.
It's not a big risk to get on board. And the rates, you know, like I tell people, you know, their Carnival rates, sometimes they're lower than Carnival. Yes. And I think, you know, when I really read into all, like after we got on the ship and I thought back to all the negativity I saw, I think it's because people go on it and they want it to be like Royal Caribbean. They want it to be like Norwegian. They want it to be like Carnival. It's not. It's not. It is MSC, and it is unabashedly MSC. And if you accept it for what it is, oh my gosh, the value for the dollar that you spend on these cruise ships, like you said, they're absolutely stunning.
Yes.
So this is the big sister to the MSC Seaside. Not only did they make the ship bigger, they made it taller. This has a whole extra deck.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is the bigger sister. And the reason why we picked this itinerary, and you know, we picked MSC on purpose because we know that there are still people who are like, I don't know about this group. Well, come with us. You know, we're going on the ship. Come with us. Let us show you around. Let us show you what MSC is all about. Because, I mean, you have the yacht club, for crying out loud. If you just want to go all the way and pay a balcony price, but get that ship within a ship experience, well, MSC is for you. Plus, the rest of the ship is absolutely stunning. But we picked this one because it has the overnight at Ocean Key, and we did that on the seaside. What a cool experience to stay overnight at their own private island. Beautiful private island, by the way. Absolutely beautiful. So we have, this is group cruise number 2. If you'd like to join us for this, we literally just announced this one. We're throwing in some extra onboard credit for it. And then the granddaddy of the 3 group cruises that we're doing, we're finally going back to Alaska. We've not been to Alaska since 2008.
Wow.
We need to go back. And Oceania is bringing their O-class ship for the very first time to Alaska. This is kind of funny. This is the big ship, 1,200 people. This is the big ship, 1,200 people. And we're going to be there for 12 nights, 8 ports. And most of the stops are something like 13 hours, like 13, 14 hours. You got a lot of time to spend, including 12 hours in Victoria, Canada, which is usually just a 3-hour token stop so they can say they went to another country.
I love Victoria. I love this itinerary. I think that they're, you know, it's a double whammy, right? They've got this beautiful ship with only 1,200 people on it. And then look at the ports that you're going to, the length of the time you're in there. And then coming back to those most opulent and flavorful dinners, right? Everything about this is just screaming that luxury, right? And I think they're just going to love it.
And the price is great. And on this particular cruise, we're throwing in the prepaid gratuity plus the upgrade to the full drinks package. So it's like $1,200 per cabin that Oceania is giving as part of this group. So it's going to be absolutely spectacularly amazing. I'm going to do that crazy, stupid zip line in Icy Strait Point, the tallest, fastest zip line in the world. I am totally doing it.
Why not?
I'm on it. I'm on it. And then apparently there's a golf course in Wrangell that has a Raven rule. If the Ravens fly down and take your ball, you can just drop another ball and keep on playing, no penalty.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so we're doing that. So folks, if you have any questions and want to come join us on any of those cruises, please do. And Bill, you should come join us on at least one of them. At least one of them. So
I'll have to look at the date.
Sorry, Betty's going on the seaside in 3 weeks. Nice, nice. Have a fantastic time. Have an absolutely fantastic time. And Steven's talking about just barely making it to an RCL cruise. You know, that reminds me, last year, was it last year that Norwegian had all those problems because there was a big snowstorm at Cape Liberty or whatever, and they didn't even leave until like 11 p.m. that night or something.
Oh my God.
Such a time getting people on and off the ship. So yeah, y'all up in New York. See, this is why I left New York. I grew up in New York, but now I live in Orlando. So
there you go.
We do have hurricanes, though. We do have hurricanes. Aaron, I see your question. I'm gonna wait on it just a little bit because we're gonna talk about KHM Travel in just a little bit. So I'll answer your question in just a little bit. We're gonna be talking about KHM Travel. That's a great question, and I have a short and a long answer to it. But we'll talk a little bit about KHM Travel. So yeah, why don't we dive into it a little bit? You know, how has the modern, I mean, a lot has happened, and you could probably talk for the next 5 hours about this. But you know, how has what has been the evolution of travel agencies and travel advisors, like from a time that you started until where we're at now?
Everybody was independent back in the day, right? Everyone was independent. There was no host agency. There was no conglomeration. The only thing that we had was consortiums that we belonged to: Travel Leaders Network, Ensemble, Virtuoso, and those are really those companies over there. They were just something that was maybe a long extended arm of us who we just used their resources. Right. That was the fact that we were running our own agencies, and we weren't business people, right? I didn't go to business college. I didn't have 20 years of business experience. We were just travel agents, right? And we didn't know how to run our business well, right? I would just say, right. Or some of us were financial, some of us were blue collar. We worked in the factories, and we just started travel agencies because of the perks. That's why people got into it back in the day.
Right.
These now, when you think about the modern travel advisor, they're business people. They're thinking from a business standpoint. They have to be sure that they have their business in line. They have a mission statement. They have a vision and what that looks like, right? And so being a part of a host agency, which I didn't know much about until I joined KHM, I had heard about this company and several others, and I thought, why would anyone do that? My gosh, you have your own credentials. But when I think about it, when my mom and dad started, they had to take out $100,000 when you have oh my gosh, what's it called when you take out a loan against your home or whatever?
A
bond. They had to take out a bond, right? And that bond had to be sitting with the Airlines Reporting Corporation just for us to have our IATA number, right? And as we went through business and they saw no chargebacks or no fraud, then that number decreased, but it took 10 years to get it down to $30,000. Wow. So just think about all of that liability that we had to take. Now you look at the host agencies, the host model is taking on all of that responsibility and liability for those credentials, that all too important credential to give you the ability to run your business by booking travel through the host agency. So I think about, and KHM is very similar to other host agencies. Some of the things I feel are different about KHM, about us, is that sense of community. We have 70 employees, right? And we're serving quite a few agents, but our ratio is so great. We have a marketing department. We have a supplier relations department. We have a whole agent support department here to answer your questions until 11 p.m. every single night.
Yes, you do.
But the key thing that I think about is that that liability, that errors and omission, that compliance factor, right? Those credit card authorizations, our online booking tools that help you make sure between you and your customer that there's a solid term and condition in there and that you're not going to be responsible for this big, huge problem, right? You've got this behemoth company behind you that's going to help you in every way possible. We offer errors and commissions. There's a liability discussion that we have to make sure that you understand what's covered and what's not. And then there's those all too important terms and conditions.
Yeah.
Plus,
And go ahead.
The big thing, right? When I came to KHM, what I didn't realize was the difference in the earning potential. So for instance, as an independent travel agency owner, if I was doing, let's say, 12% commission on Princess one year, but didn't do as well the following year, they would lower my commission percentage to 10%, right? And the same with all the other tour companies and all the other cruise lines. You had to keep those levels every single year to keep earning that commission. With KHM doing almost $400 million in sales, every single commission level is the highest possible. And I'll never forget the day we started transferring our bookings from our small travel agency to KHM, we were adding hundreds of dollars in commission because that's how we operate. I know you have consumers on, but they need to know how we operate. We operate on commission each booking because of the level of commission percentage that KHM offered under their credentials than my small Encompass the World under our credentials.
Right. And I don't try to hide any of that. And one of the things that I do try to do is to educate the consumer that you're not saving any money by going directly to, say, Royal Caribbean, because, and not to pick on Royal Caribbean, it's anybody, any cruise line, the commission's already there. And if you don't work with a travel advisor, they just keep the money. That's all.
It's that shop local idea, right? Don't we want to shop local? Don't we want to spend our dollars locally with someone that we know is going to be able to thrive based on that? Spend those dollars back in our own stores and churches, schools, pay taxes in our local community. That's the benefit of booking through a travel agent, right? Someone you've vetted, someone that you've spoken to and trust. That's what we're looking at here.
Yeah, he's talking about me. That's what he's talking about.
That's right.
I mean, we are a small business. It's my wife and I, and as I mentioned on the 1-year anniversary, this is the first time we've truly, honestly worked side by side. We've owned creative agencies in the past. I used to do film, television, marketing, and all of that. We owned the companies together, but she was still working at CNN. I was running the company, and we never actually worked side by side. But this is the first time, literally, Rebecca and I are working side by side, and it's been so cool to build this. It's gone way beyond anything I ever imagined. But Aaron, to kind of answer your question, the reason why I went with KHM, I was with another travel. Here's the funny thing. I met Jim Drennan before I joined the other host agency. Now, Jim Drennan is he's probably one of the most popular guys at KHM. Him and his wife, Judy, great agents. We love them to death. In fact, I was just talking to Judy this morning. We're working on some plans to work together. And I asked him, I said, hey, how do you become a travel agent? He didn't realize, I was literally standing on go, ready to go. And the next thing he knew, I was with the other host agency because he didn't get back to me fast enough. So Aaron, I'm going the long way around, but I felt like I went as far as I could with the other agency. And I just felt like they were not as concentrated on travel as I wanted to be. Bill, how big is the industry? Like 10 billion? It's like a massive industry, right?
Massive,
travel?
absolutely massive.
Yeah. So my focus is travel. As a business person, I know that there is a good amount of money to be made in travel alone without worrying about any other ancillary things. And I love travel. This is what I am so passionate about this. And I know, Aaron, you and I have worked together in the past, and I love what I do, and I love the travel part of it. And I went to an event in Fort Lauderdale where I met a bunch of KHM travel advisors. And like you said, there is a sense of community. There is a sense of, to a person, they all nudged up to me and said, when are you coming to KHM? When are you coming to KHM? When are you coming to KHM? And it was it was funny, but it was such a loving embrace, a welcome embrace. And once I got to know more about that support structure that you were just talking about, I love that so much of your support is they are travel agents, either working or they used to be. So they know exactly, when I call, they know exactly what I'm talking about. And then when I'm at your groups department. So really, Aaron, I switched to KHM because I felt like I needed to go somewhere else where I could get to another level. And KHM was definitely it. So it works for me. It works for me. So Nurse Tara, great point. Yeah, you never knew the commission was already built in before you heard us share that. Yeah. And it's not like a big secret. We don't keep it a secret or anything. It is there. And it doesn't matter which, you can just name a cruise line. It's in there. Name Walt Disney World. It's in there. Universal Studios. It's in there.
Yes.
So it's in there.
Profit is not a bad word, and it really just helps us earn a living. That's what it's there for. And the more we want to sell, the more we want to work, the more that we can earn. But if we like our lives and business the way that they are, we want to be right there. And that's why we want to be able to support every level of agent that we have at KHM, not just the top producers and not just the entry level, but everyone in the middle as well.
And it's a very giving community, Aaron. There's like this whole Facebook community. And boy, if anybody asks a question, it doesn't matter if it's their first day, it's their 10th year.
Yes.
People are just in there. There's no chastising. There's no, oh, well, you should know that. It's like, no, here's the answer. Get to work. Go do it. Go make it happen. So yeah, it's really awesome. Jen, you dealt with a cruise with a cruise line during COVID, and you wish you'd had somebody, now COVID obviously was a massive disruption. But we worked with travel advisors for 20 years, almost 20 years before we became them. And it was during that event that we're like, oh, thank God we have travel advisors to help us navigate all of this. And that is one of the things, Bill, I know you would agree that when things go sideways, that's where we really earn our money.
That's correct. Absolutely. We had agents having to write off millions of dollars worth of travel commission. And they stuck with it. They just stuck through it the entire time to help those customers be sure that they got something back, whether it was a refund or a credit. They worked hard to get all of that back for them.
Yeah, and there was so much going on behind the scenes. And then even today, when things go sideways, I've had clients literally. I remember one client called me from Alaska. They're like, I'm like, aren't you in Alaska? Yeah, I can't find the tour. Okay, I'm going to call the tour operator now. You stay right there. And, you're just doing little things. So that's a simple one. Or having, a cruise line cancel a cruise where I have 33 guests. And then within 3.5 hours, I've got them all moved over to another ship. So, those are just kind of some of the things
24/7, bro.
So thank you, Nurse Tara. That's very kind of you to say right there. Since we talked a little bit about KHM, I mean, if somebody is watching this either right now live or during the replay, how would you like start taking some of those first steps? We're not going to go all the way through it, but how would you take some of those first steps to maybe becoming it? And I do like that before this conversation, you mentioned the responsibilities of a travel advisor once you make that first booking. So I'll turn it over to you.
Well, first of all, I think doing reviews, right? If you're thinking about a host agency, look at the reviews. Go to host agency reviews, go to Find Travel, start to look at those reviews and make sure that we could become soulmates. What does that look like, right? Do you want to do business with us? Do you trust us? Or if you're looking at another one, make sure that you feel comfortable with them. Ask them questions. Interview that host agency first. Do 3 or 4 if you need to. Don't just settle on number 1, right? And then the idea of becoming a travel agent, people say side hustle or it's my part-time thing. And Walter, from the minute you got into it, that there's no way that this is a side hustle for you, right? I look at your numbers and I see exponential growth in just what you did starting from, the end of last year through what you're doing this year and what you've already got on the books for the next 2 years. You're now a full-time travel agent. And I think the minute that you sign up, it's learning, right? So you could do that part-time in the off time, maybe in the non-work hours, because we don't want to discourage those who have full-time jobs, right? We want to work with their schedule. But then once you make that booking, oh my gosh, you're like, I'm a full-time travel agent because there's questions coming in at all hours of the day or the night. There could be issues that I have to deal with. So I want people to think of it more as a truly involved business, not just something they're going to do on the side. If it's only looking for side, then you might not be the right fit. I want to be sure that you think about what it looks like to operate this business with people who are counting on everything that you've done for them.
Yes. I'll tell you what, when I first started this, I was terrified. And I used that fear because I think of it in terms, especially in America, you don't get a lot of vacation time, sadly. Like in Europe, 6 weeks, 8 weeks a year. But here, you get 2 weeks off, maybe you get 3 weeks off. And people are entrusting me,
Yes.
Walter, here's my vacation money. I've got 1 or 2 weeks of vacation time. Put my vacation together. And that terrified the ever-living crap out of me in the beginning. But I used that fear to make sure that I dot all the I's, check all the T's. And if something happens, that at least I have an answer for it. And now I feel so much more secure having KHM behind me that I know if I don't have the answer, somebody there does. So, yeah. And I think it's interesting. You mentioned that you're the biggest growing niche of people that are coming along.
The biggest growing niche is definitely those in that looking for something to do in retirement years, right? And I cannot tell you how engaged they are, right? We were thinking we would get the 24 to 35-year-old who's coming in young from college and wants to start a business. That's not what's happening, right? Those people are looking to make a lot more money a lot sooner. Totally understandable. They might have debt. They might need to move out of mom and dad's house. These people between 35 and 55 or even 50 to 60 are that niche that we have. And they're coming on because they're thinking, I want to do this in retirement, or I want to start to develop or build so that I have something for retirement. And I love Jen's point and question here about that full-time element. That's a niche, right? That's that idea that says I'm working full time, but I'm going to learn. I need 90 days maybe just to get my feet wet with that learning element. And to be honest with you, when you join any host agency or most host agencies, it's low risk, right? You're not putting up thousands of dollars. You might have a few $100 investment maximum to find out if this is going to be something for you. And then you're using those resources for education. And then here's what I want to say. There have been agents who have been with us maybe a couple of years, and then they'll call me. I'll do a one-on-one with them and like, Bill, I'm going to quit my job. I'm like, no, you're not. Do not quit your job. I need to talk to you about this first. And then we talk about what that income level is now, how much they need to make to pay their bills. Is this just kind of mad money or investment money for them? They're not looking to use that to pay their bills. Those conversations, those essential conversations have to happen, right? So that the realistic time frame can be put into place for what your growth looks like. Some of those agents have come back to me and said, I've hit it. I'm ready to do it. Boom, I'm quitting. And you just get so proud of them to be able to walk away from that, whatever that was, 8 hours or 40 hours or 100 hours a week, and say, I'm ready to roll. And then you feel that level of comfort. But before that, we need to have that essential conversation to say, can we do this by this time?
And I love that. That I think what you folks just heard there is a great example of why I love KHM so much. He's more concerned about the agent and the well-being and making sure that they're ready to make the jump, both financially and mentally, and not just saying, yes, come on, because we want your money, we want your commissions, we want all of this. KHM is very much about the agent.
Yes.
I love it.
All the way from our president, Rick Zimmerman, all the way down to our frontline workers. Everyone is more concerned. Let's face it, if someone's only bringing us $60-some a month and they're not engaged or whatever, that's not who we're looking for. We're looking for those who understand that business element, want to grow with us, use our resources, because we want you to be able to do $1 million if that's what you want within 3 to 5 years, possibly if you're going to put that much time into it. Even if it takes 10 years to do that, we don't care. As long as you're prepared for that long haul with us, we're good to have you.
Right. And by the way, hi, Danielle. How are you? Controversial. Hey, Scott, how are you? Good to see you. Now, Scott and I have actually had a conversation about potentially, because Controversial is cruising down there. We've actually had a conversation in the past about, hey, so what is this thing like? How does all that work? That was kind of cool. C-Day Travel. Hello. How are you? Good to see you, a fellow KHMer. How good to see you. Thanks so much for joining in, Stephanie.
Hey, Stephanie.
I love that. I love that. And yes, it is truly commendable. And it is one of the things, you will see. One of the things that was really eye-opening for me was that convention that I went to. And I met so many agents. It's just a nice little mixture of agents coming together. And you really get to understand the vibe of each company as you meet them. And pretty quickly, I found my tribe, and that's what I felt like with KHM. I found my tribe.
Absolutely. That sense of community. Just think about it. We're working from home every day. No one understands what we're going through on a daily basis just to get a booking, just to get a customer, right? Our spouses don't know. Our dog doesn't care. Our kids have no idea what's happening. Our brother-in-laws don't know what's going on. We need that sense of community that when we finally get together, or we're getting a Facebook group, or we're texting each other, support. What does that look like? No one pats us on the back when we get a booking. I keep a stack of bookings still on my desk because I want to look at that like that. I'm proud of that. No one else gets that, right? That's why I love being with other travel advisors who understand the plight of our industry.
Oh man, and some of the best posts in the Facebook group are just like, oh my goodness, I really don't know. I'm in a situation right now, and then like everybody just jumped in. Hey, consider this, consider that, and I love that. It's just like here, it is really truly that whole a rising tide lifts all ships, and I mean that's really where we're at. So,
thank you. Talk about destinations.
Destinations, I know, Bill. I mean, it's already like 18 after 9 already here.
I knew our conversation would go well, but it's going fast.
and you said, wait, we're going to talk for an hour? See, it just happened. So you've been traveling for umpteen years now. So why don't we talk about what are some of your top, maybe favorite destinations and why?
Yeah, I think about the passion that I have for the Hawaiian Islands. You mentioned the Hawaiian Islands. One of the tour companies took a risk on me years ago and said, I know you did your online training. Just come on. We want you to do the in-person training. And I went, and then I just flourished in Hawaii, right? And then I did all the other islands. They kept bringing me back, kept letting me do the in-destination training. And then I met this young man. He was like 15 or 16 years old, and he came from a local restaurateur, and he said, hire this kid. He's going to do your website. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's perfect. So he came in, and he just expanded my business by 60% just for Hawaii. And so I get so passionate about the Hawaiian Islands. I wanted to throw that in there because, and it's somewhere all Americans should go to. We should all go to Honolulu. We should all see Pearl Harbor, and just make sure that we understand why they're passionate about having us, why they don't want it to be mass-produced people coming in, and the sustainability of it. We've got to talk about sustainability in travel. I want to come back to that, but I want to talk about some of my other favorites. It was just literally within the last 6 or 7 years, the first time I went to Italy, because our agency, Walter, if you can imagine, was based on Mexico and the Caribbean for 20 years, right? Mexico and the Caribbean. We had these nonstop charters going down there every week. So that's what our business was based on. We were in Mexico all the time. When I started to branch out and get into Italy, starting to go to all other countries in Europe, my mindset changed, right? It was like, oh my gosh, like I've been selling it for years, but I'd never been there. So I wasn't an expert until I really went there. So Italy's always on that list. I love the Danube. I love river cruising. I know we can talk about that. I've got to get to the national parks. I haven't done many national parks in the U.S., so I've got to do that. And then really, I'm just a big fan of cruising in general. I've been leaning the last couple of years towards river cruising because I've done so many ocean cruises. So I can't wait till your business takes you into that river cruise mark and you start to get those clients who are going to want to get into river cruises, whether it's Europe, whether it's Asia, any one of those are going to be good, or even the U.S. There's plenty of great cruising here.
We've dipped our toes in. We've got a couple of Christmas marketplace cruises that we book. In fact, we have one client who's doing a Uniworld up until December 23rd, and then we're sending her to Salzburg, and she's going to do Christmas Eve at the Stille Nacht Silent Night Chapel, listening to a choir sing Silent Night on Christmas Eve where it was written.
It's going to be one of the most moving experiences for her, Walter. One of my first river cruises was Christmas market, and I will never forget it. It was one of my best experiences ever.
Oh yeah, that is amazing. And by the way, I just got to throw this up here, Rick. Thank you, very kind of you to say that. Rick is actually a new client, fairly recent. So thank you so much. I'm so thankful for Bill for coming on here and doing this. And Bill is one of the top people at KHM. And I mean, I think I talked to you like within the first couple of weeks of being there. I was like, hey, Hi. Everybody is just so open to talking.
No, we thank Anita, we thank Jim and Judy and Jeff Cox and everyone else who helped get you over here. So it's been great.
Oh man, Anita was the best. I met her at Cruise 360.
Yes.
I hope all y'all get to meet Anita one day. She is so freaking amazing.
She's been in the industry at least as long as I have, if not longer. And she's owned her own host agency. She's got a lot of knowledge.
And I don't think she's ever home based on her Facebook feed.
You think I travel? Oh my goodness. She's got more miles going than me this year.
She's just gone. Hey, how about what did you say you wanted to get back to? You said you wanted to get back to something. You were going through your list and sustainability. You were talking about that.
Sustainability. I just did a travel agent tips. It's going to be released probably in the next few weeks. If you haven't had a chance to watch our YouTube channel, I know it. I think it goes along with yours on sustainability. I think about sustainability. Do you know that recently I have made sure that at least 30%, it's probably now 50% of my clothing when I travel is all recycled clothing for sustainability. We have to think about this. J. Crew has a great plan, so I've been buying from J. Crew for that purpose. We have to think about the sunscreen that we're using. We have to think about the bottled water instead of the plastic bottles. There's so many elements, those products in our cabin or our room. Right. Are we using disposable stuff or reusable stuff? So I just think that there's a lot about the sustainability. We have to think about over tourism and make sure that everyone understands that there are places that we are over visiting. There's too many people showing up at Key West or Venice, Iceland, and Alaska. We've got to think about what that looks like and the control of that and be very passionate in that discussion with whether we're talking to consumers or other travel agents about what that looks like, because we want there to be sustainability for a long time because there's so many places that we need to get to. So I wanted to add in my sustainability factor.
Well, and you kind of hit on what's happening a little bit in Europe too. We're seeing pushback, like Venice, they've moved the cruise ship. Barcelona has already shut down one pier. Now they're building another cruise port about an hour away. So are all the ships going to move out? And I mean, it's just too many people coming in at one time, dumping in. And we're seeing it up in Alaska too. Some of these big ships just dumping too many people. So I'm really glad you brought that up. And it's one of the things that I love about Virgin Voyages, going on Virgin Voyages, that's a very big part of what they do, especially the plastics and the reusables and all of that.
Yes.
Stephen has just a little question right here. You going to have a booth at the International Travel Show this weekend in New York City?
We have a lot of agents who are going to be there. Well, we did not get a booth, so we apologize. We are looking at that in the future, though. But you'll see KHM agents. They'll probably have on lanyards with name badges. But we can hook you up with anyone if you want to meet them. We're very fortunate to have them there. Our teams love traveling in blocks, so you'll see them, and I hope that you get to meet some of them.
Yeah, just look at the badges. You'll get to see KHM. Yep. That's how people found me, and that's how I found them when I was at the conference. I'm like, KHM, there you are.
That's a great event, that New York show.
Yeah. I've never been to the Javits Center. Grew up in New York, never been to the Javits Center. I need to go there one of these days. Thank you, guys. Oh, great chat tonight. Thank you, Betty. Thank you, Rick. Thank you, everybody over there. My goodness, we're wrapping up the last 5 minutes of our conversation already. You know what, Bill? Why don't you take it? What would you like to get in these last 5 minutes?
I think that we need to think about, we often say, where do you want to go? And I often think, who do we want to go with? I think about whether it's, there's certain places that my wife and I want to go. There's certain places that I want to go with friends. There's certain places I like to travel with other agents too. And family and friends, those trips. So we have to think about that. And I think if we're thinking about being in travel, if we're already in travel, what does that not necessarily that bucket list, but that 5-year plan look like? Can we make sure and talk about that plan just like you have for your group cruises, right? They're laid out for people, right? Those are great destinations on great products. Can we start to look at the financial element and say, I'm setting aside this much, or I know I've got to be prepared for this much in the future of where I want to go? That's all I think about is my next 5 years. Where do I really want to go? Now, as we're getting a little bit older, do we have to lop off some of those? Am I really going to get to Australia? Probably not. I definitely want to get to South Africa. I'm a God-fearing man, and I definitely feel that God is calling me to Israel, and I need to get to Israel. And just look what happened, right, Walter? So
I know.
why didn't I go to Israel last year when I had that opportunity, or the year before? Now it's got to be on my list, and I've got to think about that. So I want to make sure that if we're in the industry or thinking about getting in the industry, we've got to think about what the plan is we're putting out there for our customers, and driving that home to them instead of just letting them come to us, right? Can we make sure and use those marketing resources to set that plan for them, set those budgets, and handle those inquiries when they're ready to work with us?
Yeah, and you know, one of the things that you've laid out is something that's starting to happen more and more with some of my clients, where we're having these conversations. We're not talking about a cruise. We're talking about 4, 5, 6 trips that we're kind of laying out. Look, I think I want to do this in 24. I want to do maybe these 2 or 3 in 25. I'm kind of looking at 26. And so we just start the list, and we just start working through things. And as you know, the new itineraries are released or new things show up, like, oh, let's go in and grab some of those itineraries and pass them along to Gail. She's ready to see. And so it's interesting that some of our clients are starting to work with us that way as well, saying, here's my roadmap. Can you start filling in the roadmap with some ideas?
There you go. We have a customer that we've had for 15 years. 3 years ago, when COVID had hit, or just before COVID had hit, I had talked to him about going to Hungary, right? They have they are Hungarian. I said, you've got to get to Hungary. What am I going to do in Hungary? I'm like, you're going to spend a couple days in Budapest, and you're going to get on the Danube, and you're going to sail either east or west, right? So he said, all right, well, we don't know what that means. How's that going to be put together? They're on the cruise this week, right? Last week, they stopped in to pick up their final documents and go over everything. They booked the next 2 cruises before they left, because now the seed is planted, right? Now they know where they want to go. They've already got 24 and 25 laid out, ready to roll. Because we planted that seed about Budapest or Hungary 3 or 4 years ago. Now they've got that laid out. We've got to be patient in this industry. We're not going to make $1 million, right? We've got to understand that we don't even get paid until those customers of ours travel and come back. And that's when we get that commission check, whether it's $10 or $100 or $1,000. We've got to be prepared for how we're laying out our finances as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And one thing I will just mention to people that I love, KHM actually pays commissions when they're available pretty much every week. Some agencies only pay it once a month, once every other week. That is a nice financial thing. Aaron, we're going to let you have the last question of the night. Bill, what if an agent wants to focus only on cruising, or do you encourage them to be more flexible and knowledgeable? I have an answer to that, but Bill.
Okay, I love this. As you know, we had Destination Success, one of our annual events right here in Cleveland. There were over 200 agents here for the 3 or 4 days. And what we do is we plant the seed for both, right? We give them land options, education, and cruise options, right? This agent had been with us for 10 years, only done land. She just did her first cruise with us. So we and most host agencies are available to get you in either direction. And I know Walter's a fan of CLIA, Cruise Line International Association, and being certified with them. That's a huge education resource. We just want to offer you those resources to do whatever it is you feel comfortable doing. But I think one of the key elements is, when you belong to a host agency, if you have a list of customers and some of them want to do something else, you need to be prepared for either taking care of them or having someone in your back pocket that you can say, I don't necessarily do that, but I've got Walter. He's great at cruising and he can take care of it for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And Aaron, what I would say is when you first come in, you're probably going to be really passionate about something. You know, we've been cruising almost 20 years, so it was a natural fit. We know so much about and we've cruised on, 10 different cruise lines. So it's not like we were just loyal to Royal and we knew the Royal Caribbean way. We know we have a good general knowledge of cruising. So it just made sense. But then once you get into an agency like a KHM, we literally have hundreds of travel suppliers in our pocket that we can get set up with. And I have multiple European travel partners that, while I may not know how to put together a German tour, they sure do. And when a client reached out and said, hey, you booked us that 10-night cruise on the Celebrity Reflection, now we want to add 10 nights in Europe around it, I said, oh, no problem. And I just called my partner, and she literally, from the time they took off in Las Vegas until the time they landed again, that whole thing was all planned out.
Yes.
And it made me look like a genius, but I told the client straight up, I said, I've got a great travel partner. And I think that's the way you work it, Aaron. You work with what you know, and then as opportunities come in, you start to do the and. You start to add that little bit of and flex in. Yeah.
Perfect.
So, yeah. Wow, Bill, this was fun. And based on the comments, everybody seemed to enjoy the conversation tonight. Thank you all so very much. Everybody who has joined in. I forgot to put the link underneath, but as soon as the show is over, I will put the link underneath here on how to get in touch with KHM. Bill, why don't you just tell everybody how would they get in touch with KHM Travel if they want to?
Honestly, you can go online, but I feel the best way is to call our memberships team. It's very simple to contact them at khmtravel.com. Just take a look at those few elements. Make sure you've done your homework on the reviews, because there's a lot of good reviews out there. Some are not so good for certain host agencies, but contact our membership team. Any one of them is so lovely, and they care so much, and they want to follow through with you. I think you'll enjoy speaking to them.
I think so. And like I said, I'm going to drop the link in the description on this show. So if you want more information, Bill, I honestly cannot thank you enough. Thank you so much for coming on tonight.
Thanks for having me, Walter. I appreciate you, and I appreciate all that you're doing for your customer base.
Thank you so much. And everybody, thanks so much for tuning in. We will see you guys back here next Thursday night, either with a guest or it'll be me and Rebecca flying solo, but certainly Sunday mornings on TikTok and YouTube, 10:30 a.m. Eastern time for about an hour and a half to taking your questions. So wherever you are in this amazing world, have an awesome evening, everybody. And thank you so much for tuning in. Good night, Bill.
Good night.